Josh here, and today I want to talk about a rather sensitive topic. A whole lot of people have been joining the realm, joining the sorcery community. They have many questions. There are many things that they want to know, but there is a question that some of them have been posing and that I have been seeing more and more that I have found troubling. And those posts and those comments are that sorcery is too expensive. Sorcerers, this video is brought to you by my sponsor, ColdFoilHeroes. If you need any cards for your sorcery deck, ColdFoilHeroes is the place to go check. You can go to their website, ColdFoilHeroes.com, using the link in the description of this video or using the QR code on the screen. So, if there is any single you need for your sorcery collection, check out ColdFoilHeroes.com. Doesn't matter if it's the most easy to obtain ordinary or a high-end curio. ColdFoilHeroes is your source for all singles for sorcery contested realm. Now, even talking about this topic is kind of flawed because my expensive may not be the same as your expensive or vice versa. So, going into this, just know that what I'm about to talk about, everyone's going to have their own perspective. And some of you will not agree with me as to what is or is not expensive. And that's fine. We all get to have our opinion in regards to what we pay for these tiny pieces of cardboard and what is reasonable for them. But because I've seen so many people mention this or post about it, it's something that I wanted to look into. I'm like, well, is sorcery too expensive? And so what I decided to do was, well, let's take what many consider will be one of the more competitive decks. So a strong mono water deck. That's kind of the deck that seems to be, everyone's like, oh, this looks pretty good. There are other decks that are definitely competitive. The meta is still very open. But water feels very strong right now. That may all change post-Sorcery Con, but at the moment, let's just assume, and based on the prices, that a strong mono water deck is going to be very competitive in the meta during the Gothic time frame before we get the next set. So, I took one of those decks. Specifically, I took CJ's Blue Magic deck, which he created a video about on his channel, Old Fashioned Nerds. I will link that video in the description of this video, so please go check it out. CJ is one of the very best players out there. He has very good opinions on what will and will not be strong in play, save a few misses, like something about some card in Arthurian Legends. But I won't dig into him on that one. So, I took that deck and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get on TCG Player. How much would it cost me to buy all the cards I need for Blue Magic? All 101 cards, right? Because the one card is the avatar, the other 100 cards, the spell book, the atlas, the collection. How much? Take your guesses. See what you think. How much is this deck? Maybe pause and go take a look at the deck just to look and see, okay, what cards are in this thing. I was shocked. I admit it. When I saw the price in the cart of TCG Player after optimizing, I was stunned. So the price for Blue Magic, as of the filming of this video, and shipping in the US, just the price of the cards without sales tax and with shipping, based on my address in Indiana, $799.67. Wow. I mean, 100 sheets of cardboard, 101 sheets of cardboard, basically $800, and then it's potentially going to be sales tax and all that thrown in on top of it. So yeah, that deck, $800 for a deck to play at the highest level of play in Sorcery. I think $800 is expensive. I think people will look at that number and they'll think that's expensive. I think most average folks will think that. $800 is expensive. I'm not saying that it's wrong that it's that much or anything like that, but just, you know, spending $800 on your hobby, that's a major purchase. That's, you know, I'm going to spend some pretty significant income on this. I mean, $800, you know, that can pay for a lot of other things in terms of housing costs, food costs, vehicle costs, all those things. So $800 is a very sizable chunk of money, I think, for the average person. So does that mean that Sorcery is too expensive? It's $800 for this killer deck. That's too much. Well, hang on. Then I thought, you know what? Let's take a deck that I built, that I felt is semi-competitive, not necessarily top-tier competitive. But let's take one of the decks I personally built. How much is a deck like that? A deck that I enjoy playing, that I have fun playing, that I feel is competitive, that I have played against, you know, some people who are very good at this game, and I feel like I had a chance. So, I took Dungeon, the deck that I built that was, you know, based off Snagged from the Arthurian Legend days, and now it's Dungeon here in the Gothic era. How much would it cost to build Dungeon? 101 cards. Oh man, it's going to be way cheaper than Blue Magic. It's no way. I'm not nearly as good a player. I probably didn't pick the right cards, so it's going to be fine. It wasn't fine. To build Dungeon on TCG Player, $596.37. So basically $600, especially once you get sales tax on there. So $600 for Dungeon. Very enjoyable deck, a deck I love playing. $600. I think most people are going to say it feels pretty expensive, especially for, you know, if we in the community, if any of us go out and talk about our hobby to the layman, to the individual that has no idea about what our hobbies are, the money that some of us spend on them, they will probably think we are absolutely insane. $600 feels pretty expensive for that deck. And that's not even what I would consider a, you know, because it was built by me and I'm not the greatest player. I feel like, you know, okay, $600, yeah, that's a pretty sizable chunk of money. So is Sorcery too expensive? Is that really where we're going with this? And then I said, wait, let's just look. Let's look at the cards in the decks. Let's take Blue Magic. Blue Magic, $800. Well, let's just look. There are 17 uniques in that deck. One of those uniques is the Ring of Morrigan, which right now is sitting at $175. That's a big chunk of change. We could save a lot of money on Blue Magic if we cut the ring for $175. Then we're at $625. Okay, well, that's a lot less. It's still a big chunk of money, but maybe there's some other 17 uniques. Or what are these uniques? Can we get rid of some of the other ones maybe? So I took a look. Oh, guess what else is in there? Mother Maiden Crone. $65. $65. All right. There's another nice little chunk of money. So now, if we cut the ring and MMC, we're at $240 that we've cut out of the deck. Okay. All right. Still expensive. Okay. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden is sitting at $60 at the moment. And I haven't even talked about the price increase of Garden of Eden yet. Like, that's not even something I've addressed in a market video. I mean, it's been going up, but I didn't realize it had hit $60. So $60 plus the $240 that we've already knocked out. So now we're at $300. Okay. Now Blue Magic is down to a $500 deck. Still a significant chunk of money, I think, for the average person. Spending $500 on your hobby is a very sizable thing. Now, obviously, it depends what hobby you're into. If you're into something very expensive, I don't know, bass fishing. I have a coworker whose spouse is into bass fishing. And let me tell you, bass fishing is an expensive hobby. Tens of thousands of dollars. So, whole different ball game, right? But we're still talking about $500 for a bunch of slips of cardboard. Okay, well, are there any other cards that we can cut to bring it lower than that $500? Oh yeah. See, there's two Omphalos in this deck. One of them is $70, one of them is $75. So there's another $145 we can shave off of this. So now we're down to $350. $355. $355. Because we've shaved all of that money off of this by cutting 5 cards. 5 cards. You still have a very functional deck. You still have a very good deck. You still have a lot of cards in that deck that are $40 and $30 and $20. And you still have a very good deck just cutting those 5 cards. And there's a few $40 cards you could potentially cut. Now, again, at what point is expensive to you, right? I don't want to spend more than $100 on a deck. Okay, you're going to have to cut some more of those uniques. You're going to have to cut some of those $40 uniques like A&O and Lilith. You may have to look at cutting some of the $20 uniques, like Atlantean Fate. Actually, Atlantean Fate's $25 right now, right? So you may have to start cutting those. But still, it's not like you're cutting out the bulk of the deck, especially if you're willing to spend, say, $400. Now, I'm not saying that is a small amount of money. It's not, especially for slips of cardboard. But if you want to play at that level, and people spend money on their hobbies, $400 for a deck missing these 5 high-end cards from the get-go, that doesn't sound bad to me. Now, I will say, you have to remember, I come from a miniature tabletop background. I had to buy armies of plastic things. And I bought a lot of things from Games Workshop, who is a company that has pricing that a lot of people are not happy with. So to me, $400, I'm like, okay. Now, I have spent far more than that on a miniature army, on numerous armies for my miniature games. So if you spend $400 and you've cut 5 cards, you're still going to have a great deck. Yeah, it's going to be missing some key pieces, but here's the other thing. And this is the thing that I want specifically to say to all of you who are new to sorcery. remember this is once per year. Remember that you only need one copy of these very expensive cards. This is not another game where you need 4 copies of a $50 card multiple times over. You just need one copy of the ring. You just need one copy of Maiden Mother Crone. You do not need 4 copies of any of those high-end cards. And also, it's once a year. Now, I know for those of you who are getting in right now, yeah, you've missed Beta, you've missed Arthurian Legends, you've missed Gothic. You've got a lot of ground you're trying to cover. Trying to cover all that ground, trying to get all these cool, good cards. You want to get them as cheap as possible. Because obviously, we all want to pay less money for the stuff we like. That's just what we want to do. But you have a year until the next set. What other TCG can you say that in? What other TCG can you go and participate in and not have to worry about a set 2 or 3 months from now? If another game had released a set in December of 2025, how soon would you be seeing a new set? I think in most games, you'd be seeing a set, probably in March at the latest? At the latest? And more than likely, it's going to be like February? So, to all of you who are new, remember, it's once a year, one time per year, that you are going to have to be dealing with this. And yes, for those of you who are new and you've got to deal with all 3 sets, I'm sure it's overwhelming. I'm sure when you look at some of the prices, especially of cards in Arthurian Legends, some of the cards in Gothic now, I'm sure you're like, man, this game feels really, really expensive. But just keep in your mind, it's one set a year. You have got time to catch up, to buy a $60 card this month, and then 2 or 3 months from now to buy another $60 or $100 card or whatever it is. You are not going to have to worry about a new set in April for Sorcery that you have to all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, there's another 50 uniques, and of those 50 uniques, 12 of them are amazing and they're all $50 or more and I just can't afford. That's not Sorcery. You don't have that worry here. So I'm encouraging all of you who are new, stick around. Believe me, once you get past the initial, okay, some of these prices seem high, whatever that is to you, whether it's $20 or $50 or $100, whatever that price range is, once you get past that, just think, yeah, but man, it's only once a year. I can build my collection slowly over time, getting those key critical cards, those 5 cards for Blue Magic that make up half the value of the deck. I don't have to have them all right away. Especially in Sorcery, because there are many, many games where you are not going to see a particular unique. That's just the nature of this game. It's 1 card in 60. You do not see your uniques all that often. Even if, you have the Highland Princess and the Ring, even then there are going to be games where you don't see either of those cards. So just think about that. To have a good deck, a good, solid, foundational deck that can compete at events like Sorcery Con, that can compete at events like the Avatar of the Realm, hopefully, that's coming. You do not need to spend all of that money all at once to be competitive. In fact, I think Duo, who won the Crossroads at Gen Con, I feel like he didn't have a Ring of Morrigan, and he still took it all the way. I could be wrong about that. I may be misremembering that. But I just have this feeling that Duo didn't have a Ring of Morrigan at Gen Con, and he won that Crossroads event without that card. I could be wrong about that. But if I'm not wrong, if I'm not misremembering, there's your proof. You don't have to have the $175 card to compete at the highest level. You don't need it. You don't have to have it. It can be a future goal, something you work towards, something you save towards, right? I mean, it's always nice to acquire whatever it is you're working towards, right? Every time I am fortunate enough to acquire one of these, every time I am thrilled. But I have to save. I have to sell some things to cover the cost because I want these things. You know, I don't have a lot of high-end cards. I get rid of my foils. I sacrifice those babies because I want this. It's the same sort of thing. You know, what is it in your life that you like? What do you want to spend your money on? Sometimes you have to make those choices. But sorcery does not have to be expensive. You can play very competitive decks with far less money than $800 for Blue Magic or $600 for Dungeon. Dungeon has a ring in it. You're down to $425, just cutting the one card. You cut the two tri-lands in it, you're going to shave off another, I think, $80 between the two. So now you're almost down to what? $350, under $350. So it's very easy to do that, to cut those key cards. You don't need to have them right now. Sorcery doesn't have to be expensive unless you want it to be. And you can make that choice. That's up to you. What you think is expensive. Whatever your definition of that is. But I'm telling you, one set a year, it really is, at the end of the day, not that expensive if you take that into account. And I do certainly understand, those of you who are brand new, you do feel a little overwhelmed. You're looking at these prices and you're thinking, man, that's a lot of money to put in all at once. And you know, I mean, we're just talking about $800 to build Blue Magic. Well, what if you want to build a fire deck or an earth deck or air deck, right? You're gonna be spending even more money. But you don't need to have those cards. And to be competitive, to have a deck that's very functional, that is at a competitive level. You don't have to have them. And you can build it over time. And because of the once a year release schedule, you have the time, which is something you wouldn't have in most other TCGs. In fact, I think all other TCGs. I don't know of any other TCG that's doing it like this. That's just my thoughts. I know some of you are going to disagree with me. That's okay. Like I said, what is expensive to one person is not expensive to another, and vice versa. I totally understand that. But before you say sorcery is too expensive, think about all those factors. Think about, okay, it is only one set a year. I've got time. I can, save a little bit of money here and there and buy one of these expensive cards once a month or once every 2 months. I can do that. That's something that is feasible within my income. One set a year. One copy of any given unique. That's all you need. No problem. You don't need 4 copies. So, tell me what you think in the comments below. Am I wrong? Is sorcery too expensive? I think I made a pretty compelling argument this time that it's not expensive unless you make it expensive. And there are ways you can make it so that it's not expensive right off the bat. But I hope for those of you who are new, think about it. Stick around with us. You will have a good time. The sorcery community is fantastic. We have a good time. We have fun games. Sorcery is designed to be fun. And yeah, it's wonky sometimes. And yeah, we have weird ruling issues sometimes. And there are sometimes that we can't figure out exactly how the rules even are supposed to work yet. Because it takes time after a set releases. But it's worth it. So stick around. I think it'll be worth your time. I think it'll be worth your money, whatever amount you decide to put into sorcery. That's it for today. As always, keep on contesting the realm!